This is the fine art, or just art culture part of the programme, and I actually feel, now looking at you, Simon, I'm completely underdressed. So is Zaria still here?
Yes,
I need
I
it.
am.
I need your flouncy velvet scarf, darling.
Okay, all right.
It's just culture vulture time. If you can arrange it.
This is just the cherry on top of an already beautiful cake.
Oh!
And if it helps you speak art and culture better, there you go.
Does that
Thank
help?
you very much, Azari.
Do you feel like I understand what you're going to talk
I'm
about?
starting to feel more comfortable. I think this is, it looks good, Red work with the red light, everything's complimenting. So.
Now, Simon, you have lived in New York City for quite a long time, and you're quite the connoisseur of all things decorative and beautiful and emotive. Tell me, do you think that New York City is still the epicenter of the artistic universe?
It is the epicenter of the artistic universe just because of the sheer number of galleries, art dealers, art programs or art shows that are on there, the amount of artists who live there. However, a lot of the people who are dominating the art industry there and are making the great works like a Richard Serra or Jeff Koons or someone like that, these guys are all in their 60s and above. The city is now so fueled by extremely high-end money and high-end art purchases, especially coming from markets like in Russia or Saudi Arabia or anything like that, that it's very hard for young artists to go there and spend the 10 or 15 years required in a kind of bohemian environment to build their craft. You just can't afford to live in Manhattan anymore within sort of close range of those big galleries, those big dealers, those big art shows.
So you're saying you almost have to have made it before the time you get there, because otherwise you're going to burn and crumble very quickly.
You wouldn't even be able to get in there.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. The market now has to mean that you have made it in a second city, and a second city really is something like a London, San Francisco, Los Angeles, or Paris maybe even. You have to have made it there before you even get a look in New York. Maybe that is just a kind of process of elimination for getting rid of the art that really shouldn't be there in the first place, but maybe that's too high a barrier to someone who is a great artist or could have been a great artist but just didn't have the finances or ability to get into that main area, to get into New York, the main game.
And who do you think is some of the best that's getting pumped out of New York at the moment?
There still are some phenomenal artists, and it's not the ones people think of. A lot of the artists people do think of, and I go back to Jeff Koons.
Yeah.
I think a lot of his art is derivative. A lot of it is simply copying the surrealists or some of the modernist movements in the 50s, Rauschenberg and that type of thing, or even the pop artists. So I don't think he's really as great as what people think. Even
He's
though
not an entrepreneur,
Well, he is an entrepreneur. He's an entrepreneur. He's very good at making money. Each of his artworks will sell 20 to 40 million easy, and for a living artist, that's phenomenal. However, I don't think they're the big statements that in 100 years or 500 years are going to define our era. I think there's artists coming out of New York like Gregory Crutzen. He's probably the world's best photographer at the moment.
Oh
and yet
my
almost
God.
unknown.
Like, he honestly made my insides weep, and I know something went on with the top half of my body. You know what it is? It's like Richard Yates, but in a picture.
Yeah.
You know, that just like, I don't know, it's like 1950s sadness, but spoken of in 2007. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
And it's set in a very normal suburban reality, his
Yeah.
photography. And there is something about it, about the frustrations of modern life or the collapse of American society or the tensions within American society. So it is an artwork that is both aesthetically beautiful and amazing, but at the same time saying something really deep that you cannot say in words about the state of America right now, which is what great art does.
I don't think anyone has seen any of his photographs and not just had like a physical reaction to it.
Yeah.
And there's something like it's something you want to be seeing in Technicolor. It's something you want to. It's so emotive, and I think it does what art is supposed to do, like get you feeling. It's not supposed to have the answer to anything, but he really, like, the photography in there is. It's not just photography. It's like a cinematic whirlwind. Like,
And when you see his, once more, a good artwork needs to be seen in the original. And when
Yeah.
you see his artwork, his photographs, and they are like an 8 by 6 foot high gloss photo, and it looks amazing. It is, you are having an aesthetic experience. You're having an experience that you can't get any other way. That you didn't really think that you would have that reaction to it. And it is a visceral, it is a physical, it is an emotional reaction. And that's when you know you're hitting great art. That's, I think, one of the problems with the New York art scene at the moment. There's a lot of people trying to create what they're calling postmodern art or post-structuralist or whatever, and they're really just, for lack of a better term, they're putting crap in a gallery and hoping the context of the clean white walls and the high-falutin kind of location, be it Soho or Chelsea,
it's going to be enough.
Yeah, is to justify it. And the worst case of that was an exhibition in Soho which I saw, which was just a room full of tyres, used tyres. And I went in there and it was like, okay, cool. Like the Dardaists did this kind of stuff back in the 20s, so you're about 70 years too late. But on top of that, the guy came over to me when there was a group of us there just going, this is unbelievable, this isn't art, I'm not really getting anything out of this, and it's derivative if it is trying to shock us through having tyres.
It does help to have big walls. I once lived in an apartment with a 6 foot by 6 foot painting of Lionel Richie's Hello cover. Like I shit you
Yeah.
not. And that was like, it's magnificent, but we had massive
Yeah, that's it.
walls.
There is almost a factor to you can put anything in a big white wall, in a Soho location, you know, with very well-dressed people curating it, and you will sucker a lot of the buyers.
Put a plate of cheese down,
Yeah,
and
put a
opposite
plate of
one we're
cheese
like,
down.
oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
saying so much about our dietary requirements and what we eat. And where does the cheese come from? But yeah, and you're right. The context of the art can often absolutely trick and fool the people who the galleries are trying to sell to. They can be seduced by the fact that, oh my gosh, this is in Soho and it's worth $7 million and that guy's telling me it's art, I better buy it. When in reality, it's like, well, first up, do you personally have a reaction to it or an emotional engagement with it? And secondary, do you think this is going to be something that if you're going to spend $7 million on it, is going to hold up in 50 years or 100 years or whatever it might be?
Oh, look, it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm loving the fact that everyone's got taxidermy on the doll at the moment. There's always room for taxidermy. I was in New York once and almost spent a lot of money on a small black piglet, but you know, that's for another time. But no, that's really cool. And do you think, just to end it off, do you think Sydney is also a place where people can start off, or they're a long way in the pecking order of London and Paris and Milan before they can hit New York?
I think Sydney, it can still happen because there is enough, there's a critical mass of extra money in this city that people will and do buy art, and they enjoy buying art, and there's enough galleries here. But it really is, at the end of the day, just a stepping stone to something bigger.
Cool.
That said, I do love it when you get Australian artists, whether it's Albert Namatjira or Brett Whiteley or Donald Friend, who stayed here, made great art, and that art has persisted and survived.
Brilliant.
So, yeah,
Thank you very much.
no worries at all.
Thanks, Azari, for the scarf.